Hello, my beautiful friends. My name is Kim, and I hope you're having a fabulous day today. If you are interested in true crime stories like I am, I hope that you would consider hitting that subscribe button. But either way, thanks for being here. Today, we're going to be talking about Ayla Reynolds. Ayla was only 10 months old when she was reported missing. It has been almost 12 years since Ayla was last seen by her family. Without further ado, let's talk about Ayla. On February 17, 2011, Waterville, Maine received a 911 call from Justin DiPolito saying his 20-month-old daughter was missing. The 911 call has not been released, but the transcripts have. In his first call, he only said his daughter was missing. He did not give a name of Ayla. Then the call dropped. Now, when Justin calls back, he said that his phone had died, but now he was on the one that was charged. This is possible, but Justin's call drops another time in the call. Studies show that making a fake or deceptive 911 call is extremely stressful and not very easy to do. But on the next call, he tells the operator that he had already called about his daughter, but his phone had died. He gives the address of 29 Violet Ave. He says, quote, "I woke up this morning, my daughter is not here," unquote. So the operator immediately gets his callback number in case they have any more issues. Justin tells the 911 operator that the 20-month-old little girl is missing. At this point, he gives his name. The operator asked, quote, "Was there anybody else with you overnight?" Justin answers that his sister and his sister's daughter, also his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's son were also there. When asked how long ago he saw his child, Justin answered, quote, "When I put her to bed last night. My sister had checked on her, woke up this morning, went to her room, and she's not there," unquote. He then says his sister checked on her later, and Justin's sister, Alicia, is heard in the background saying that she checked on her around 10 p.m. at night. Then Justin lets the operator know that after putting Ayla to bed that night before 8 p.m., he personally had not checked on her or even peeked in the room until 8:30 in the morning. This is a 20-month-old baby girl, so leaving her alone in the room with no baby monitor overnight for 12 hours is kind of a lot, but that's his story. Then the call drops again. Justin calls back in again and says that his cell phone died once again. The operator said she tried to call him back, but it went to voicemail. It is at this point that he finally gives Ayla's name. Towards the end of the call, the 911 operator asked Justin, quote, "Okay, and you've checked the house. Is there any way she could have climbed out of her crib?" Unquote. Okay, so this is Justin's quote, and it doesn't really make sense, so just bear with me. "No, ma'am, there is no way she could there's no way she could," unquote. The officers arrived on scene, so the call is completed. So how did we get here? Ayla Bell Reynolds was born on April 4, 2010 in Portland, Maine, to her mom, Trista Reynolds, and her father, Justin. Trista and Justin were never a couple. They never dated or anything like that. Essentially, they had hooked up, and as a result, Trista had gotten pregnant. But Justin said there was no way the baby was his and wanted nothing to do with the pregnancy. After Ayla was born, a paternity test proved that Justin was the father. But because he was still not interested in being involved in Ayla's life, essentially his mom convinced him that since Ayla was his, he needed to do the right thing and he needed to be involved. Over the next few months, Ayla did visits with Justin and the family, but just for a few hours at a time. They didn't do overnight visits. This was because, according to Trista and the Reynolds family, when Ayla came back from visits with Justin, she always had bruises and unexplained injuries. The one instance that Trista's father, Ron Reynolds, tells about in a news article is when Ayla came back with very bad bruising on her leg. It was bad enough that Ayla was not wanting to put weight on it, so they took her to the doctor just to make sure that she was okay. Justin said that he had taken Ayla to Chuck E. Cheese and a little boy had been kicking Ayla in the leg while they were in the ball pit. The problem is that the Reynolds family is familiar with that Chuck E. Cheese they went to, and there is no ball pit. Not to mention the fact that if you are taking care of your young child and a boy is kicking them enough to leave bad bruises, you should intervene. Where were you? Trista said this was normal for how things went with Justin. He would give excuses or explanations that made no logical sense, and you could see right through them. In October of 2011, Trista decided to go to rehab to deal with a substance addiction. At this time, Trista also had a second young child, an 8-month-old boy named Raymond. Trista says that there was never a question as to who would take care of Ayla while she was away. She made arrangements. Ayla was going to stay with Trista's sister, Jessica, and Trista's mom would help out as well. The thought of Justin taking care of Ayla never even crossed Trista's mind. Justin did not have that kind of relationship with his daughter, and Trista said, frankly, she doesn't trust him that he would even take care of Ayla. She said that she always worried that Ayla wouldn't be safe with him. On October 19th, the police and DHHS arrived at Jessica's door. They informed Jessica that they are there to facilitate the transfer of custody from Trista to Justin. They tell her that Justin has been given primary custody of Ayla. Jessica's panicked and confused. She's like, what the hell is going on? She knows that Trista is not comfortable with Justin taking care of Ayla. This is the sister. And so the sister calls her dad and asked him, what should I do? Ron Reynolds later says that he spoke with the police officer that was there and begged him not to take Ayla.
That night when the officers brought her down, I told that officer straight out, I said, she's going to flip out. She's going to flip out because she does not want to go with him.
The officer said that he wished he didn't have to, but needed to enforce the order coming from DHHS. Jessica would later say that Ayla sat on the policeman's lap, being her adorable self. She was trying to talk to the officer, just being silly and playful. The officer would later say that when he called Justin into the kitchen, Ayla freaked out. She just broke down. She started screaming and crying. She was trying to run away and hide from Justin. And I have to tell you, that is so telling, in my opinion. It was a very bad situation, and Ayla was clearly not showing any connection or being comfortable around Justin whatsoever. Unfortunately, because of the DHHS order, Ayla had to go with Justin. After Ayla left with Justin, Jessica reached out to Trista to let her know what had happened. Trista was so scared at the thought of Ayla being in Justin's custody that she immediately checked herself out of rehab and headed home. Now, because Trista and Justin had no custody agreement at all, there was not much Trista could do. Many people would ask, why didn't Trista just go right over to Justin's house and grab Ayla from him? She literally couldn't. We've seen this before where one parent takes the kids and the other has no legal grounds to stand on because there is no formal custody agreement. So over the next month, Trista tries everything to convince Justin to give Ayla back to her. And we have to remember that Justin didn't want anything to do with Ayla in the beginning. And now all of a sudden he wants full custody? Where is this coming from? The bottom line, though, is that Trista was afraid of Ayla in Justin's care, and her fears were realized. On November 11th, 2011, Ayla's arm was broken. Now, Justin's story never sat right with the Reynolds family. They found it completely ridiculous. Justin said that on one night he had returned home from the grocery store with Ayla. He said it was the nighttime and it was raining. And as he approached the door, he had Ayla in one arm and the groceries in another arm. He says that the step was slippery from the rain, and so he fell. As he fell with Ayla in one arm and the groceries in the other, he landed on Ayla. And this was his story. It kind of is believable. That makes sense. You know, I think we've all kind of, we've fallen, and I don't know. Does it make sense? I don't know. That's his story. He said that Ayla was crying and upset. After a little bit, she then just started acting fine. Ayla wasn't taken to the doctor or hospital until the next day because she sounded like she was in pain, but then she came around. Kids are so resilient. Justin's mom, Phoebe, said Ayla acted fine that evening. So there is somebody to back up, but I don't know if I trust this family, but we'll get into that. He said the next day, Ayla's arm looked swollen, so they decided that she needed to see a doctor, and so they actually did take her to the doctor and found it was broken, and they did put a cast on it. So at the time that Ayla was taken, she had this particular cast on. For the next month, from November into December, Trista only saw Ayla 2 times and only talked to her on the phone 1 time. Could you imagine spending every moment with your child to just seeing her twice in a month and talking to her once on the phone? That had to be so difficult and heartbreaking for the parent. She said she was barely ever allowed to talk to Ayla because there was always an excuse. One time when she called,
he said, well, she's watching Home Alone right now. And I said, really? And you're not going to let me talk to her? And he never did. And then that was it.
You can't interrupt a movie to talk to her mom, but okay. Another time, Trista was told that Ayla said she didn't want to talk to her. I'm sorry, but Ayla is only 20 months old and probably couldn't even say all that, even if she did feel that way. Almost most kids that age are excited to talk to their mommy on the phone, but that wasn't what she was told. Later, Justin would tell people that he and Trista had agreed that Ayla should stay with him while she was in rehab. Trista completely denies this. Also, if that was the case, then why would Justin have needed to get DHS and a police officer involved? He wouldn't have. Trista would have calmly dropped Ayla off and there wouldn't have been any problems. But this is what he says months later when his stories are falling apart. The last time Trista saw Ayla was on November 21st, and the last time she spoke to her was on December 8th. After going through this for over a month, Trista was done. On December 15th, she went to the Cumberland County Courthouse to file a petition for full legal physical custody of Ayla. She says she did not tell anybody, especially Justin, because he is so vindictive and aggressive. She was afraid that his response, would be something, not good. When she is there, she finds out that DHS caseworker Karen Small didn't even follow the correct procedure in this case. She didn't do a home visit. She didn't do any background checks on anyone living in the home, and she did not do the interview with everybody in the home as well. Also, it turns out that Karen Small is related to Phoebe, Justin's mom. So she is basically family. Karen shouldn't have been involved in this case at all. This could have been 100% avoided. You, Karen. One thing I learned recently is that Karen hadn't even filed the papers with the court to remove Ayla. She did it much later and probably assumed that no one would be checking. And honestly, if nothing had happened to Ayla, they probably wouldn't have. They probably would have never even checked on this. Trista and her family could never understand how Justin could get custody of Ayla so easily without a court hearing or anything like that. Well, now they understood it was probably because Karen was a family member who did not mind breaking the rules. Trista says that Justin found out about her filing for custody. Many podcasts have speculated about this point, saying maybe one of the Reynolds family had told someone. I think the fact that the caseworker Karen Small was related to Justin is the only explanation needed. Of course, when Trista filed custody papers, Ayla's caseworker would be notified. The next day, on December 16th, Trista confronted Justin about many things concerning Ayla, but most prominent was the fact that Justin had not taken her to any follow-up doctor visits and that her arm was broken in the first place. How did her arm get broken? Also, that he wasn't letting her see or speak to Ayla. Justin responded by text saying, quote, "You and your family will never see her again," unquote. At this point, Ayla had been in Justin's custody for 59 days. I guess we could consider that 2 months. Then the next morning on December 17th is when he makes the 911 call saying that his daughter is missing. He says he put her to bed at 8 p.m. the night before, and his sister Alicia checked on her at about 10 p.m., and that he didn't check on her again until 8:30 the next morning. Now the house was owned by Justin's mom, Phoebe, and Justin had just moved in a couple of weeks earlier. Justin was staying in a bedroom in the unfinished basement with his girlfriend and her son. His sister Alicia was sleeping in the bedroom upstairs. And then Ayla, and usually Alicia's daughter, slept in another bedroom upstairs. But for some strange reason, Ayla was sleeping in the room by herself when Alicia's daughter was sleeping in Alicia's room with her. So Alicia's daughter decided not to sleep in the room. I'm not sure if she decided. I don't know how she was. Maybe, Alicia decided that she didn't want her to sleep in there. But anyways, all we know is that they said that Ayla was in the room by herself, which is kind of convenient, but we'll move on. When the police show up, they search the house fully to make sure she isn't hiding somewhere. Then they start searching outside in the yard and in the garage. They branch out to the neighbors' yards as well. Within 90 minutes, 2 detectives, 2 more police units, and 2 fire trucks full of firemen were on the scene, also searching for Ayla. First, they are searching outside of the house and then the garages, then even searched a local baseball field, basically anywhere she could be. Meanwhile, in Portland, Maine, 75 miles away, a police officer shows up at Ron Reynolds' house to inform him that Ayla is missing and that they'd also like to speak to Trista. At this moment, Trista was on a 4-hour car ride with her future father-in-law, and they were on their way to visit her fiancé, Raymond, who had been recently incarcerated for arson. When they got the call and found out that Ayla was missing, they turned around and they headed back. Trista went directly to the Waterville police station. Trista was questioned for 2 hours, but she was cleared. The police were able to verify where Trista was the night before and the whole morning. Once they did that, they started looking closer to the home. On December 18th, the FBI joined the case, bringing a CART team with them. That stands for Child Abduction Response Team, and those include law enforcement investigators, forensic experts, search and rescue experts, crime analysts, and victim service providers. The police were unable to activate an Amber Alert for Ayla. Amber Alerts are used to provide information about an abduction and their abductor, including vehicle information, to the public in the hopes of getting their assistance. In cases like this, where there is literally no abduction information, an Amber Alert is not possible. I know this frustrates people because the Department of Justice that manages Amber Alerts says that if Amber Alerts are used incorrectly, they could lead to the abuse of the system and weaken its effectiveness. Also, Amber Alerts are designed with the idea in mind that vehicle information can be broadcast across road signs and even cell phones so the public can assist in identifying a vehicle on the road. In cases like Ayla's, where there is literally no information, having an FBI CART team at the scene is extremely helpful, and it has no requirements, only that the child is missing. The Meshalonsky stream is 2 blocks east of the home, and a group of searchers walked the bank of the stream. They brought in a pair of scent detective dogs to see if they could find a direction, if Ayla had made it out of the house on her own, or someone had taken her to get a direction. Unfortunately, the dogs could not pick up a scent of Ayla. At this point, authorities said they did not believe that Ayla had climbed out of the crib and would be able to make it out of the house on her own, especially because she had this broken arm. That day, Justin and his girlfriend Courtney, also his sister Alicia and his mom Phoebe, all went to the station for questioning. The police must have learned something because the next day, on December 19th, they seized both Justin and Courtney's cars. On December 20th, they diverted part of the Meshalonsky stream and part was drained so they could search. They also had divers in the river, but nothing was found. Unfortunately, they stopped searching houses at this point and started instead looking at dumpsters and trash cans, so you could definitely see that there was a shift in the investigation. A week after her disappearance, the DePietro home was declared a crime scene. Yellow tape was put up surrounding the whole house while Justin and Alicia and Courtney were all asked to leave and not allowed to take anything with them. So they were on it. 2 of the state's top homicide investigators, as well as the entire forensic team, entered the home. They bring out bag after bag of evidence. They even removed an entire window to be examined. During this week and into the next, Trista went on every news show that she could. She was on the Today Show, Good Morning America, basically anywhere that would have her on. While she was doing this, talking to everyone and anyone, Justin was talking to no one. And I mean no one. Peep, nothing, mint, nothing, including Trista, even her own mother. He's not talking to her. He never called her. Not even the day Ayla went missing did he call her. You would think that at some point that day he would call the mother and of this child, but he didn't. And in fact, he wouldn't answer her calls either. During the second week, Justin released a written statement to the media saying basically that he was not hiding. He was just staying quiet and making sure he didn't interfere with the investigation. I'm sorry, what? So on December 29th, Trista was done with him. She had had enough of him dodging her and the reporters. She went on the Today Show with Matt Laurie and basically called him out on national TV. She asked if he's really not hiding, then why won't he at least speak to her?
Justin, where she is?
Justin, just look me in the eye so I can see her. Justin, look at me. Ask him. You do want to look at me. Do you remember this? Justin! What are you doing?
Justin's mother, Phoebe DiPietro, even turning the tables.
I am
Ayla's grandmother, and I believe she's alive.
And I am her mother. her!
The next day, on December 30th, the police held a press conference with the statement, quote, "At this point, we believe foul play has occurred in Ayla's disappearance. The case has evolved from a case of a missing child into a criminal investigation," unquote. On December 31st, after 2 weeks, they released the 29 Violet Ave home back to the family. And then at this point, Justin finally started giving some interviews. He said he wanted everyone to hear it directly from him that he loved Ayla and would never hurt her. He told the reporter that he had stayed quiet because he had been trying not to interfere with the investigation. There that is again. The problem is that Justin showed no emotion. Zero. When the reporter was trying to get a sense of who Ayla is and asked him, "What makes your daughter so special? Tell me about Ayla," he said, quote, "She's my daughter. She's my world." And that's it. Not what is her favorite color? What is her likes? Does she like Barbies? Does she like castles? Does she like unicorns? Dora the Explorer? Nothing like that. Just, she's my daughter. She's my world. That tells us nothing about Ayla. And it shows that he has no connection to his daughter either. When Ayla went missing, she was wearing a green and white polka dot footy pajamas that says "Daddy's Little Princess" on the front. There was a rumor that there was a party at Justin's house the night before he reported Ayla missing. When Phoebe, Justin's mom, did an interview on CNN, she said that she was positive there was no party that night because she herself had been there. She even described sitting on the couch in the living room right outside of Ayla's bedroom door and that the house had been quiet and peaceful. There hadn't been a party or anything. Now, this was shocking because according to Justin's 911 call and the family's numerous interviews with the police, Phoebe had not been there the night before. Well, the next night she goes back on CNN again, crying and saying that she was sorry, that she made up the whole story about being at the house the night before. So now we know that the family are trying to help Justin. They're trying to cover something up. Why is the mom lying? That does not help the investigation. It only covers her son's butt. What is going on? Okay, so now we know Justin's mom is willing to go on national television and create this whole elaborate lie just to dispel the myth of a party. If she will lie about this, what won't she lie about? And what about Courtney? Well, she has never spoken out. The woman was there the night before and the morning of. To this day, has never spoken. On January 28th, the police held a press conference and said that they believe everyone in the house knew things they weren't saying and that they weren't cooperating. Law enforcement said there was no sign of any forced entry, and it was a small house with 6 people in it. If someone had broken in, someone would have heard it. It was later released by the Reynolds family that on January 3rd, 2012, that Trista and the family members were given a presentation of the evidence found at 29 Violet Ave. There was a PowerPoint presentation shown by Maine State Police investigators as well as a grief counselor. They started this by showing pictures of all the blood that they found that could be seen by the naked eye. This was without the need or use of luminol. Several drops of Ayla's blood were found on the shoulder strap of her car seat in Justin's car. Her dried vomit was found on the back seat. Droplets of Ayla's blood were found on the pom-poms of her pink princess slippers. A silver dollar-sized stain of Ayla's blood was found on the couch in the upstairs living room. Ayla's blood was found smeared on her baby doll's face and arms. It appears as if to them that Ayla tried to wipe blood from her mouth with her baby doll. This was found in Ayla's bedroom, and it was the only blood found in her bedroom. Drops of Ayla's blood were found on a fan cord in Justin's basement bedroom. Ayla's blood splatter was found on a plastic blue tote in the basement, and a sheet that was found inside had Ayla's blood stains on it. MSP said it had been used to clean up blood. Several drops of Ayla's blood were found on the tongue and inside of Justin's sneakers in the basement beside his bed. A fist-sized stain of Ayla's blood was on Justin's mattress and sheets. This contained saliva and possibly vomit as well. This is pretty damning, and I'm not done. This is pretty damning. And I would say that I think people have been convicted on less. Like, arrest them. I don't know. Anyways, let me continue. Then several splatters of Ayla's blood were found on sections of the cement floor and the walls beside Justin's bed. These splatters were consistent with Ayla's standing height and were up to a dime size in size. The MSP determined that the blood spatters were created by intense projectile vomiting and or blunt force trauma. So they are saying that at her height, where she is standing, there is blood all over the wall. I can't even arrest him. Attorney General's office provided comparison photos of Ayla's blood, normal and enlarged. After this slideshow of blood, you could see with the naked eye, they started to show the pictures of blood found, which was enhanced with luminol. I'm sure you guys know, but if not, luminol is a chemical that can be sprayed on a surface. It reacts with blood and the other bodily fluids and can be seen and photographed under certain lights. Trista said that she only made it through 2 of the luminol pictures before she asked them to stop.
I think seeing the pictures are things I'll never forget. It's kind of like when you close your eyes, it's always a flashback.
Everyone who saw the slideshow said that those 2 pictures in and around Justin's basement was that his bedroom, quote, looked like a murder scene. She just couldn't see any more of it. The MSP determined that the spray patterns could not have been a result of any kind of cut or scrape. Some samples of Ayla's blood also contained saliva, showing that she had been coughing up blood from internal injuries. The MSP concluded that Ayla's injuries were both internal and external. So this is where it gets really frustrating. The search pretty much never stops. They are always searching the stream, the river, looking for Ayla. When the Reynolds family released the blood evidence information to the public website, and it says right on there that the reason that they wanted the public's health and putting pressure on the Attorney General to file charges against Justin. Attorney General has always maintained the investigation is ongoing. They are resolved to find Ayla's body. The police have never publicly named Justin or anyone else in the house that night as an official suspect, but they did come out and say that due to the amount of blood they found in the house, they do not believe Ayla is alive. In 2017, Trista petitioned the court to have Ayla declared dead. This was not easy for her, not one bit, but she had her reasons. On November 16, 2017, a judge declared Ayla Bell Reynolds legally dead. Then Trista, with the help of her attorney, filed a wrongful death suit against Justin. When her attorney speaks about it, he compares it to the O.J. Simpson case. He says even though O.J. was found not guilty in the criminal court, he was found guilty in a civil court because the burden of proof is much lower. Although most civil suits have a monetary value attached to them, the point of this one, and most, to be honest, is to hold people accountable for their actions. For a long time, they were waiting for case files and records from the Attorney General's office. They recently got them, and because of what they contained, on July 7th, 2022, they were able to add Phoebe and Alicia to the wrongful death suit. I took a look at it, and it states that, quote, the distribution of Ayla's blood and blood stains, as well as evidence that a person or person attempted to clean up Ayla's blood before authorities arrived, is part of the evidence they received. The suit is about making sure Justin is held responsible for his daughter's murder. The 3 family members, Justin's family members, are facing wrongful death, conscious pain and suffering, and wrongful interference with the body of a deceased person. Justin also faces a count of breach of parents' care of duty. The case hasn't gone to court yet, and the civil suits typically take a bit longer than criminal, so I will definitely be waiting and watching to see what happens with this one. This case really got my blood boiling because I have a hard time explaining away all the blood evidence. It just seems like he is so guilty, in my opinion, and they honestly get people on less charges than what they're finding at the house. There's no possible way she left. There's all this blood evidence. Just arrest him. I don't know. Anyways, but I want to hear your thoughts. Let's leave a pink heart for Ayla, her surviving brother as well, and the mom, who I'm sure just wants answers.
Part of me always wonders if she was yelling out for me and wondering why I wasn't there to save and protect her like I was supposed to. So no, it haunts me every day.
I have to say that not knowing has to be worse than knowing. Thanks to all my channel members who continue to support me. Well, if you guys have made it to the end, you guys are rock stars, and I love you to death. There are more true crime videos in my Crimey Stories playlist if you'd like to check them out. Stay safe, my loves, and remember, if you see something, say something, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.